You're listening to Make It Big, a podcast about all things e-commerce, created by BigCommerce.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Make It Big podcast. My name is Troy Cox, and I am Senior Vice President of Product at BigCommerce, which basically means I lead our global product management and product design teams. Now, I would consider myself a super fan of our Make It Big podcast, so I couldn't be more thrilled to be hosting this episode today and even more excited about the topic at hand. And so, what is the topic? Well, we are delving into the world of headless commerce. Now, to the uninitiated who might not be familiar with headless commerce, I can totally understand if you might think that something called headless is quite macabre. But it's actually not, quite the opposite actually, and there are very good reasons to embrace this phenomena called headless commerce, and so that's what we'll be talking about today in just a little bit. Chances are though, if you are a merchant or you're a e-commerce professional, then you have likely heard the term headless before. But, like a lot of people, you might be asking yourself, what does headless really mean? What can it do for my business? Is it even right for my business? And so, how do I get started with headless? Well, those are the topics and more that we are going to explore in today's podcast. Joining me today, we have two headless experts, so let me introduce them. Keval Baxi and Ryan Bloms, both from Codal. Keval is CEO, Ryan is Director of Partnerships. Welcome, guys. Say hello.
Hey, Troy, Ryan here. Excited to actually have a conversation. I've managed our BigCommerce partnership for many years, heard you speak on a lot of webinars. I always really appreciated what you and your team have done for the platform.
Likewise, Troy, really excited and a pleasure to be here and looking forward to our conversation about headless.
Yeah, we're super thrilled as well. Keval, maybe tell me a bit about Codal. Tell me about your business.
Absolutely. Codal is a UX design and development agency. We have a couple offices around the world, headquartered in Chicago, and we really specialize in e-commerce solutions and complex B2B commerce.
Awesome. And not only that, I know you're being a bit modest here, but Codal is BigCommerce Partner of the Year. And not only that, you're also the winner of the Best UX and Design Award. So, first of all, congratulations, but also you certainly are subject matter experts in headless commerce, and we are super thrilled that you're on the podcast with us today. So thank you, guys. I think the best place to start really is let's set the stage. Let's kind of explain what is headless commerce, how is it different from traditional commerce, and what are some of the, common reasons that a merchant or retailer would choose headless versus traditional. Tell me about that.
So headless commerce really means kind of the separation of your front end and your back end. So what your customers see on the front end is the look and feel, the search, the filters, the product pages. All of that is kind of UI components. What we do with headless commerce is decouple that so we can kind of integrate those at various API layers that might be from systems that you have, from your e-commerce providers, all the way to your ERPs and some complex experiences. What we've kind of found is merchants really want to control the experience on the front end. So traditional e-commerce sites are monolithic, they're a full package, and you don't have as granular control as you may want. So with headless, you can really go to the layer of animation, the layer of data as far as you want. Another common element is, let's say your marketing team is already familiar with the CMS that they really love and they work with. Headless allows you to continue to use that. You don't need to make huge transformations in your business just to use a certain e-commerce provider or move your site over to BigCommerce. And another area that headless is really interesting for large enterprises is they already have a team of engineers. They may not know specific theme platforms for e-commerce vendors, but they know their headless frameworks. So those are usually JavaScript. They already know how they operate. They can really just take that and run with it with really minimal training to migrate a site over. And then looking at BigCommerce specifically, the headless experience can be in a number of frameworks. There are lots of open source frameworks, paid services that have a really good tech stack, versus on a theme platform, you're really tied to Stencil, which is a big commerce theming language that really works kind of like a cartridge. You program and you kind of stay within the container of BigCommerce, whereas On the headless end, you have that flexibility to kind of explore outside of that ecosystem.
Yeah, no, that makes a lot of sense. I think, thinking about the pandemic and what's happened over the last couple of years, in the big shift to buying online, to your point, we've seen a really big shift in the expectation of modern consumers and what they expect from retailers in terms of that experience. And, it's everything from how seamless the experience is across online and offline and how great the search is. And so there's that. And then coupled with the fact that today's retail landscape is, ever more competitive. And so retailers are looking for more and more ways to differentiate their brand, to tell their brand story, to bring their products to life. And so they're seeing the shopping experience as this vehicle or this way that they can, differentiate their brand and tell this brand story, that coupled with the expectations of modern consumers. And so I think what we're seeing, to your point, is right, this rise in headless, because that is a very efficient and successful way to do all of those things. And so I totally agree that this kind of increase in consumer demand and retailers needing to differentiate their brand is a big reason, particularly as what we've seen coming out of the pandemic. Is that, I might double click on that a little bit more. Has that kind of been what you are seeing? And is that the experience of the brands that you work with as well?
Yes, absolutely. So overall, over the last few years, we've seen shoppers really expect just a new layer of experience. They're looking for the ability to be extra personalized to their needs of the service or product that they're buying, or they want a front-end experience that's ultra fast. It's connected to multiple channels. They're switching from Instagram to the e-commerce experience back to a different channel. And Headless really allows you to do that. It really gives you that modular setup of the brand that really allows users to kind of interact, and you can almost future-proof this component of your e-commerce journey.
Yeah, I totally agree. It leads me to this whole idea of delivering these highly customized, personalized experiences, and Headless is the vehicle that's enabling, and I would even say accelerating, merchants' ability to do those types of things. It leads me to a report that I was reading from Gartner, where they're reporting that by 2023, organizations that have adopted a headless approach will have outpaced their competition by 80% in the speed of new feature implementation. Now, for me, that's a pretty bold statement, right? Outpacing your competition by 80% in the speed of new feature implementation. What do you think? Do you agree? How is headless enabling that kind of growth?
Yeah, no, the numbers are shocking, right? To see kind of how it just evolved in such a positive way. We've seen enabling user experience is really kind of a focus area for brands. Headless really allows you to design and envision kind of what your brand wants to sell and make it come to reality. So we've kind of seen that. There are really no limitations. You can scale your site immediately into buy online, pick up in store, multi-territory, multi-language. You can introduce new currencies that you accept, really kind of adapting to what the consumer wants at a really rapid pace.
Okay, so we've been talking a lot about the kind of the key benefits of headless. I'd love to bring that kind of out of the abstract and talk about real world examples of customers leveraging headless and how it's driving growth for them. Ryan, do you have some real world examples that you want to share for us?
Yeah, we've built some really cool stuff with headless, just because of the amount of capabilities that going headless unlocks. We work with a BigCommerce merchant, Demco, in the housewares space, and they sell to all kinds of local kind of gift shops and things like that across the country. And they've basically asked us to build this online portal for their merchants or customer base to be able to track their shipments, to do things like make returns, pay invoices online, all the things that traditionally Demco had a large staff of just kind of customer service reps dealing with these B2B customers. Now these customers of theirs are able to kind of take that online and just execute that on their own time. They don't have to call in and talk to somebody. I know nobody likes to talk on the phone anymore these days. We all like to just, kind of click through and make our purchases or track our shipments online. So kind of taking some of that, consumer mentality and bringing it over to the B2B space. They've seen, tremendous growth on that side in onboarding new B2B customers and also seen, an increase in how frequent those bills are actually paid, which is pretty cool.
I love that you mentioned B2B. And so I want to dig into that a little bit more in a minute, but maybe do you have some great examples of B2C merchants as well that have adopted Headless?
Yeah, Troy, like you said it as we opened up and you introduced our agency, we did win the Best User Experience Design Award for BigCommerce last year, and it was on a headless implementation. For anybody who's ever come to Chicago, you've probably smelt Garrett popcorn. I swear they pump that smell out into the... They just open the doors.
Yeah.
You can smell the popcorn on the street, and us being local Chicagoans here, we really tried to recreate that in-shop experience online of building a tin of popcorn. You can select your 3 flavors of popcorn and bringing that experience online. We went through a detailed discovery with this merchant, which we do with a lot of our merchants, just to really understand their needs. And we determined that, hey, to truly accomplish this, we're probably going to need to utilize some sort of content management system and really accelerate some of the actual design of the site. And our team, they did a lot of research and physically went to these popcorn shops to understand how they operate and the questions that the customers are asking when they come in. How many does this feed? What are the flavors? What are the, kind of dietary, elements of each popcorn flavor? And then building that, design on top of a platform like BigCommerce with the open APIs, and Keval can maybe talk to the tech stack and the integrations there, but it was a no-brainer to go headless anyways for Garrett Popcorn.
I think that's an awesome example. I mean, we talk about bringing the brand to life and bringing the product to life. I think that's a super good example.
The technology element of it, we used kind of a BigCommerce stack, provides really strong kind of headless APIs that integrated with Contentful, which is a headless CMS. It really allowed the design team to understand what the customer wants, and they went with a really complex design, but it became really possible with headless. I don't know if it would have worked out with a theme-based approach.
Right. Were there maybe a few other examples that you want to share of real-life examples?
Yeah, so a great example of a B2C customer of ours is Goreware. I know BigCommerce CEO Brent Belm is a huge fan of Goreware. He's a big biker.
As am I.
So you guys were instrumental in bringing them over to the platform, and we went headless for these guys because they actually have I believe 4 or 5 different brands under their umbrella, and they are adding to this, not all under the Goreware name, but what we determined is they are selling throughout all of Europe and US. And under these sister brands is that going headless is actually going to save an incredible amount of time for their team to be able to design things once and then replicate it on all of their other sites. Before we brought them to BigCommerce, they had all these different brands. One was on Salesforce Commerce Cloud, one was on a custom platform, and everything was different. The internal staff wasn't interchangeable because they didn't know how to use the systems. So by going headless, we were able to kind of unlock their team to be able to work within brands and be able to kind of have a unified customer experience instead of kind of having a totally different look and feel for all their different brands, even though they're all owned by the same parent company.
So just with that one, is it the kind of the sophistication of the shopping experience that led them to headless, or was it the languages, or kind of all of the above? What led them to specifically go headless?
I would say for them, the most important aspect was actually the fact that they were selling in 13 different languages and currencies throughout all of
Right.
Europe. And different marketing teams were managing those translations and managing, kind of the content for the products. And as their new spring line came out and the fall line came out, they kind of had to set it to one admin to upload all these things. Now they can do it themselves. We've provided training to have them understand. We partnered with Contentful on this project. A great CMS that integrates well with BigCommerce to just make that kind of new line launches be able to be uploaded onto the site quick and easy and a whole lot less manual than it was in the past.
Got it. That makes a lot of sense. Were there any other examples you wanted to share with us?
The only other thing I'd actually add for one of Goreware's sister brands is they have this incredible warranty. It's the parent company is Gore-Tex, and it's all kind of lifetime warranties on these waterproof zippers. And if you've got these $700 pair of rain boots, and all of a sudden you've got water coming in there while you're trout fishing on some river in Alaska, you're going to want to actually take advantage of that lifetime warranty. So they've got a pretty sophisticated returns portal that we built headless for them to be able to document, hey, which actual line, was that particular boot? What year did it come out? Where is the leak actually happening? Is it if it's a pair of waders, is it the right pocket? Is it the left pocket? So that way it can be sent to and routed to an actual certified Gore-Tex repair shop. And there's only, less than 20 of those, I believe, across the country. And instead of, if you're in California and you don't want to ship it across the country, you want to find the closest one to you. So we built a lot of logic in the back end to be able to kind of route that and save them costs because at the end of the day, Sitka Gear is paying for these repairs. They might make the choice to just replace it if it's too much of a damage. But by going headless and building out that kind of user flow and being able to ask the right questions that their customer service rep team was traditionally doing just over the phone and translating that online, it's definitely created a lot more recurring purchases under that brand that's already so loved by kind of the hunting and fishing community.
Yeah. So my takeaway from that is the consumer experience, of course, is super important, and they wanted to have a highly personalized experience, and headless was really the keys that unlock that. And then the additional benefit there, of course, is reduction in cost for them because they can automate the workflows and the routing of that. That's awesome. That's a great example. Thank you.
Yeah. Just a couple others quickly.
Yeah, please.
We're doing a lot of work in the corporate gifting space as well. I think the COVID times absolutely highlighted the need that if you're trying to treat one of your best customers, all of a sudden you can't ship it to their office anymore. Nobody's there. So we've had a couple different sites that we've built that have really kind of taken that experience to the next level. And by going kind of headless and building it on top of the CMS, we're able to do things like gift messages for each individual purchase, kind of recreating that Amazon experience, but on a more traditional direct-to-consumer site for these individual brands and shipping to multiple locations. So we've done that, in the corporate world, but also in kind of the gifting space. If you're trying to treat your friends, we've got a cocktail kit making subscription, and that way, I think that was big for a lot of me and my friends. Was kind of doing happy hours together over Zoom, and everybody kind of getting the same kits. So that was another great example of kind of that gifting space and being able to do a singular purchase, but ship to multiple locations and understanding everything that goes into those kind of purchases is definitely a lot easier by doing it on a headless CMS.
Yeah, another good example. Yeah, I think it's a highly personalized, customized shopping experience is leading to that decision to go headless. It makes a lot of sense. Thank you for that.
Yeah. And as long as you're talking personalized, I've got one more. I don't know if we are actually the only agency that does this, but we are one of the only BigCommerce partners that can build a healthcare subscription kind of platform on top of BigCommerce that is completely HIPAA compliant. It's taking all of that patient healthcare information, storing it in a secure location, but then leveraging BigCommerce in a headless fashion to actually be able to prescribe to kind of recurring subscriptions of dermatologist recommended skincare, or we've done a lot in kind of the women's and men's health space. For anybody that's kind of going through any issues there, a doctor can actually prescribe them a recurring kind of prescription. But by going headless, we're able to kind of execute the purchase and say, hey, Troy, you're able to make that purchase on your credit card, but it is storing all of the actual patient information of yours offline off of BigCommerce in a HIPAA controlled environment. And then BigCommerce is being leveraged for the actual transaction of that purchase and recurring subscription.
That's awesome. Thank you for that. It sounds like we have great examples across a range of industries and verticals. So thank you for those examples. I suspect there's a lot of listeners of the podcast saying to themselves, is headless right for my business? How do businesses know if headless is right for them?
Yeah, I think what we want to do is look at brands that create a fully localized or personalized experience, or a business that really needs full control over multiple brands, a complex customer journey, innovative process of purchasing. And then you kind of look at the commercial end of it. Headless does cost a different scale than a theme-based site. So looking at budgets for both internal and external resources, engineers, product individuals, kind of ensuring that is solidified. And then really looking at businesses that need to implement complex processes. So across the board, you have a lot of unique businesses, includes surveys or includes personalization, B2B. That would be a really great fit for headless. And then also looking at multiple sources of data. So if you look at a large enterprise, sometimes you have multiple ERPs running, you have a transformation project that's happening on the business end, but you don't want to hold up your e-commerce end to go live. And that multiple sources of data can be really easily consumed directly into headless.
Yeah, I want to pull on that thread a little bit more. Those are some of the considerations, I guess. Are there types of businesses where headless might not be best for them? Or I suppose the related question is, what are some of the gotchas related to going with headless?
Yeah, so one big area that I think really don't understand is the app ecosystem, right? So BigCommerce has an amazing layer of partners and app developers that have built really cool applications that solve a lot of business needs. You need to really go through and make sure those are headless compatible. A lot of the apps and plugins that exist in the ecosystem are completely compatible, but there are other integration steps. It may not just be a one-click install, or it may not just be a click and go kind of process. So that would be one area. The other side is, let's say you're coming from a theme-based e-commerce site converting to a headless. It's a different skill set. The developers are different in their training, a lot of JavaScript over the scripting languages. So kind of just looking out for that, and a quick point and click change may not be the case, right? You may need some developers to manage it long term. And then also just the timeliness of it, right? In order to do headless correctly with proper architecture, proper testing, you really need to make sure you have kind of an accurate timeline, right? You can't just go in saying, we can launch a theme-based site in 3 weeks. Let's do that with headless. There are some trade-offs that need to be considered.
Good advice. Thank you. It's always good to be eyes wide open embarking on a project like this. So thank you for sharing those. I want to come back to B2B. So you mentioned a good example of a headless B2B implementation. Tell me, I guess the question is, in general, how can headless benefit B2B, if at all? Is there any difference?
No, there's a tremendous impact to kind of B2B sellers looking at a headless experience. So typical B2B enterprise selling process is fairly complex, right? They have a lot more rules, whether it be from purchase orders to a a build-it-yourself experience to interacting with live sales reps for a portion of the process to ensure that they're buying the correct elements, or kiosks, kind of all those elements really fit well into the headless ecosystem. The teams can build out and user experience, design, kind of the exact user-tested, data-driven approach that they want and not having to worry about platform limitations. I'll give you kind of an interesting example. We worked with a farm in Brazil. It was about kind of the farms are massive, sizes of small countries and cities. What we wanted to build out is a headless experience that allowed the farm owners to investigate if they had moths or insects in their farms and then order chemicals automatically through a portal. So we built out kind of a drone-based system that allowed the scanning of some elements on the ground that basically caught a set of traps and then reported it through IoT. And then from there, on the BigCommerce end, we would aggregate that data into a customer profile. So whichever customer was the farm, and then the chemical company would allow the fulfillment of the respective chemicals they need based on the findings. So a pretty interesting journey, and this definitely could not have been done through a theme-based approach, right? Integrating apps and drones and a couple IoT devices really require that flexibility of code.
Wow. That's a super interesting example. You started talking about moths and insects. I was like, where's he going with this? And then drones, I was like, well, okay. No, that's super interesting. So we've talked about, how headless can benefit B2C businesses. We've talked about how it benefits B2B. We've talked about some of the gotchas. I think probably a lot of merchants listening to this call are probably asking themselves, well, if it's right for me, then, how do I get started? What would be your advice on how to get started with headless if they believe it's right for them?
So looking at a couple different vehicles, right? So first thing is really auditing the experience, looking at what they're looking to achieve from a end goal standpoint, right? I want to be able to build a portal. I want to be able to build a kiosk app, a website, kind of looking at that and then identifying what features and components that they would necessarily need in that experience. And then kind of going into proof of concept mode. The quickest way that we look at it is let's design something quick, let's build something quick, experiment it with customers and data, and then kind of scale. So kind of our journey would be is understand, define, and then kind of start to build a small proof of concept. And then as it realizes value, kind of scale into a more production state environment.
Got it. Great advice. Before we wrap up, any final words for our listeners? What do you really want our listeners to take away from this conversation?
I think really understanding the future of e-commerce. It's an integrated world we're in. So really taking a look at how headless really solidifies kind of the approach of how commerce should be conducted. And then really looking at kind of key leaders in the space, right? There are lots of e-commerce platforms out there. BigCommerce has a significant head start on the architecture and the infrastructure of headless. Codal's been right there with that growth, and we built a lot of different experiences through that. And I'd really look at the headless experience is one thing, but we need a proper ecosystem to power that. And starting with BigCommerce and then the respective apps and partnerships that the ecosystem has, I would kind of scale and really look into that.
And just to add, I would say it's super important for these merchants, as they're doing these evaluations. It's about selecting the right partners. It's the right e-com platform. It's the right agency to partner with them that really understand their business needs and what they're looking to accomplish, not only for the immediate launch, but also phase 2, phase 3, 5 years from now, as they're going to be acquiring more brands or going international. It's truly important, I think, as they're going through that process, even if the answer isn't headless is going to be the right fit for them, they've probably now gained the trust and understanding of an agency and a platform that can still do it in a theme-based, kind of approach. Once you've gotten to know a merchant on that level, I think that's truly, what makes a successful build. It's not necessarily just headless or not. It's that true partnership is super important.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more with that. Great advice, guys. Guys, that was fantastic. Thank you, Keval and Ryan. For those listening who may want to reach out or connect with you in Codal, what is the best way to do that?
Yeah, of course. I mean, you can reach out to us, go@codal.com. Otherwise, just ask BigCommerce for the Partner of the Year is always a good way to get a hold of us. But no,
Indeed.
Troy, this has been great today. Really appreciate the opportunity to come on here. My only request is that next time we do this, down under in your office there in Sydney, if that's all right. It's a little cold here in Chicago. So
We would absolutely love to host you here in Sydney. Guys, thank you. That was excellent. Thank you again to our knowledgeable Codal team, and thank you to our listeners. You can also check out the episode description for more of our headless resources, including some helpful infographics and articles. And to hear more insights and advice from our e-commerce experts, make sure you follow our Make It Big podcast and stay up to date with the latest episodes.
Thanks for listening to the Make It Big podcast. For even more e-commerce insights and advice, be sure to follow us wherever you get your podcasts and keep up with the latest episodes. We're taking a short break, but don't worry, we'll be back in late July with brand new episodes. We'll have even more exciting guests and cutting-edge insights for you. In the meantime, you can check out our episode library and be sure to follow us for the latest updates when we return. Thanks for listening.